Welcome to the chosen ones. When God raises a person in front of those who attempted to bury them, it is not a comeback. The court case is being closed. Let us make one thing obvious. You didn't just prove them incorrect. You openly exposed their illusions. The street rumors, sleazy group conversations, and phony tales spread like cheap perfume. Everything just struck a magnificent wall. Because now the same people who claimed you'd never be nothing are sitting in the back row, watching you become everything they secretly want to be. And here's the kicker. Harvard studies have shown that individuals are more inclined to trust a confident falsehood than a quiet truth until the truth emerges. Wearing such loud results made even the naysayers blink. Allow that to sink in. Your elevation did more than merely quiet them. It humiliated the whole small hate committee. They wrote you off as a narrative surprise that wouldn't make it beyond the first chapter. And now, the whole city is reciting your narrative aloud as if it were scripture. I understand the irony. The individuals who previously warned others about you, they are now being warned. Isn't karma funny? So take a seat. We chose one because we are about to break down. Why? They're choking on everything they've ever said about you. Why are individuals who used to laugh now flipping sides like musical chairs? And why you were never the villain, but rather the misunderstood main character with impeccable timing. This isn't vengeance. This is a revelation. Let's go deep. Number 1. They weaponized your reputation since they couldn't change your reality. They attempted to damage your reputation because they did not grasp your reality. That is the truth. When someone can't discover genuine dirt on you, they start making it. They couldn't believe how pure your soul was, how strong your character remained no matter what storm struck you. So they began spreading falsehoods, distorting tales, and casting shade in areas you hadn't even entered. They hoped that if they could persuade enough people to accept the version of you they created, they could make it a reality. But here's something they didn't realize. People were paying attention to everything, including who was saying what, how often they said it, and what they were attempting to deflect from. You never needed to defend yourself. That was what shocked them the most. You did not hurry to clear your reputation or respond with receipts. You simply continued being yourself. You let your walk speak for itself, and others began to notice. They observed how you remained strong while others grew infatuated. They noted how you continued to expand quietly while your name was continually spoken. They noted that the villain never came up behaving like one. Now, the same individuals who helped propagate misinformation are seeing the reality firsthand. And it's unpleasant because it's more than just you being proved correct. It's about their exposure. Every false word they spoke is coming back to them, and they're scrambling to alter the story, hoping no one recalls what they said. However, people remember how they treated you when it was okay to despise you. They recall who continued firing bullets and who remained quiet as you were carried. And now those folks are standing next to each other. The worst thing for them is that you didn't even attempt to exact retribution. You've just lived. You've just healed. You just got promoted. And your truth is unmistakable. Now they appear dumb for always questioning you. You didn't have to raise a finger. Life has exposed them on your behalf. Because when someone attempts to murder your character but you walk with genuine light, the only thing they destroy is their own credibility. And now they're choking on every word they said was real. Number 2. They derided things they didn't comprehend. They now dread what they cannot control. They laughed at you because they couldn't comprehend you. They rolled their eyes, made side remarks, and labeled you as too much, too deep, or too unusual. But the fact is that they were uncomfortable. You moved in a manner that did not fit their script. You did not seek permission to exist. You didn't seek approval to be powerful. And it shocked the crap out of them, since most people aren't accustomed to someone who doesn't grovel for acceptance. Most individuals require a crowd to feel safe. But you remained steady, even when it meant standing alone. They couldn't describe you, so they attempted to categorize you as passionate, serious, spiritual, or remote. But what they truly meant was that I couldn't control you. And this disturbs me. Your confidence was not overpowering, yet it was disconcerting since they could see you weren't acting. You weren't faking it like others did. And that type of sincerity exposes individuals not by force, but rather by contrast. They chuckled because they saw your stillness as weakness. They felt your remoteness was strange. But in reality, you were witnessing everything. You were taking notes as they were attempting to focus their attention. And now that your vision has manifested and your progress is visible, they no longer make jokes. The room became silent. People who used to speak over you have now botched their words in your presence because they understand you don't need to be loud. You just needed time. What's hilarious is that they never really disliked you. They despised how free you were. They despised the fact that you did not shrink, that you were not dependent on their favor. They couldn't understand why you weren't striving more to fit in. That screwed with them. Because if you could be completely yourself and yet succeed, what does it say about their phony performances? They're now seeing the same enthusiasm they criticized become the reason others like you. And they're concerned because what they previously laughed at is now your signature, and it's too late to imitate it. You were never an issue. You were simply ahead of your time. And now, time has caught up. They're realizing they wasted all that energy ridiculing someone they might have been learning from. Number 3, you didn't need vengeance. You let the outcomes embarrass them. You did not spend time attempting to respond. You did not respond by throwing dirt at them. You let the outcome embarrass them. That's what struck the hardest. They anticipated you to fall under pressure. They expected you to respond emotionally, to spiral, to urge others to take your side. However, you did not move in such manner while they were speaking. While they gossiped, you were establishing your company. Every slur they hurled was only fuel for your next move. You let them talk before allowing your life to speak louder. They never realized the power of quiet because they felt it signified defeat. They didn't understand you were utilizing that time to hone your skill, improve your thinking, and refine your vision. You were not sitting still. You were sitting with purpose. And when you began rising, it wasn't tiny. It was not silent. It was obvious. The glow-up was not cosmetic. It was founded on genuine healing, real strategy, and real progress. That's what's humiliating for them now. The same people who questioned you were witnessing you go through the same doors they said would never open for you. Even worse, you did not tread on them to get there. You didn't need to destroy them. They ruined themselves by wagering against someone who never had to play dirty. Your peace is now quite loud. Your presence is scary. They are well aware of this. They notice it in the way others respond when you talk. They sense it in the way you move without apologies. They hear it in the way your name is referenced in rooms they cannot enter. You never had to raise a finger to exact retribution. Your elevation became the reaction. Your success made a noise, and your development made a case. And now they seem absurd, not for what they said, but for how firmly they stated it. Because, in the end, you used your life to prove every falsehood incorrect, and you did it with class, strength, and without having to reduce yourself to their level. That was what really destroyed them. Number 4. These are the same folks that desired you. Silence. Now quote yourself in rooms that you were locked out of. They used to smirk as you talked. Every concept you presented was dismissed. Too extreme, spiritual, and impractical. Your perspective made them uncomfortable because it did not fit into the little universe they were working so hard to maintain. So, rather of listening, they laughed. Instead of asking inquiries, they spread rumor. You weren't just misunderstood. You were purposefully locked out. They didn't want you there since your presence ruined the illusion. You were not playing their game. Therefore, they couldn't control you. So they did. What do little brains do? They attempted to quiet what they could not control. Now, fast forward your words. The same ones who rolled their eyes at you are now circulating in places where they never wanted you. Using the identical terms you used, the attitude you lived by, and the values you stood for. Those topics are now popular among their peers. They're spreading your ideas without crediting you, repeating your voice as if it were original, and echoing your energy because they realized it was useful after you were out of sight. What they don't comprehend is that your absence did not diminish your effect. It exacerbated it. The quiet they imposed around your name did not diminish your significance. It caused it to spread in ways that they could not control. They are now obliged to accept the very template they previously despised because the things they formerly deemed insane or excessive are now being commended by others they respect outside of their little communities. People who understand the truth and are very ashamed of what they did. They are aware that they attempted to discredit you just to return the same energy with which they ridiculed you. It's not just hypocrisy, It's exposure. Now they're wearing your phrase as if it were their own hope. Nobody knows where it originated from. But the truth has a strange way of emerging. And no matter how much they attempt to alter history, the true historians know you were always ahead. You were always correct. And now, your silence is louder than their stolen words. Number 5, they were never opposed to you. They were hooked to reducing what they recognized as light. They were never really against you. Not in the manner they pretended. The reality is, they saw your light before you realized what it was. They saw something authentic, honest, and untouchable emanating from you. And instead of being inspired, they were provoked since your presence did not just brighten the room. It exposed everything bogus about it. You didn't come in loudly, yet your presence screamed volumes. You weren't trying to be better than everyone else. You were attempting to be true to yourself, to your city, and to refuse to play small. It annoyed them. They were not battling you. They were resisting the mirror you had created in them. You made them feel uncomfortable, not because you were incorrect, but because you were correct in ways they couldn't dispute. You saw through the masks, games, and manipulations. You have a clarity that cut through their delusions. Instead of confronting their own emptiness, they chose to attack the one individual who refused to pretend they didn't know what it was. So they attempted to identify you as the issue. Too intense, too sensitive, to divert elsewhere. But you were not the problem. They were unhealed. You reminded them of everything they had not dealt with, everything they buried. They were faking everything to live. They made it their job to darken you, not because you were too intelligent, but because they refused to adapt. However, time has gone, and truth has done what it usually does. Rise. You are being validated. Your words, knowledge, and soul. Everything matured wonderfully, and now they are being revealed. You did not fight back, but your life did. The masks they donned are sliding. The people they deceived are waking up, and everything they attempted to blame on you is coming back to haunt them. They never hated you. They feared your strength, tranquility, and alignment. Instead of working hard to help you advance, they sought to tear you down. They are now compelled to see your success. They were well aware that the light they sought to dull was exactly what they needed to heal. Number 6, you were the exam, and they failed publicly. You were not merely a bystander in their journey. You were the test. They had no idea what they were consuming. You arrived with true energy, genuine objectives, and a clean heart. Without realizing it, you revealed everything untrue around you. They didn't treat you based on your actions. It was about their character. Your presence was the examination. And they always picked envy over joy, shade over support, or falsehoods for loyalty. They were writing their responses in indelible ink. They had no idea they were being observed, not only by humans, but by time, alignment, and the supernatural. You were the moment that had the potential to uplift them if they had chosen. Right. However, instead of acknowledging the link, they mishandled it. They perceived you as a competitor rather than someone with whom they might develop. Instead of safeguarding you, they discussed you. They made assumptions rather than inquiring how you were doing. The most hurtful aspect is that they did not fail you in private. They failed loudly. They ridiculed you in front of the crowd. They were laughing behind your back in group discussions. They mentioned your name in talks to seem superior. But now the city that watched their attempt to break you is watching. You become exactly what they said you'd never be. Your name is clarifying itself. Your glowing complexion speaks for itself. And many who formerly stood with your opponents are now sitting silently, rethinking their beliefs. No one is doing it right now. No amount of backpedaling will change the way they openly betrayed you. Because when someone is granted access to someone unique and chooses to mishandle it, their choice stains them rather than you. Them. You were not there to be accepted. You were sent to expose. And what became clear was who they really are. When the spotlight was not on them, they now have to deal with the reality that they failed the exam. Not in private or in secret, but with the whole city watching. Finally, there is the judgment. It has already gone, not by you, but by reality. Number 7, they didn't just lose you. They were denied access to the prophetic future you represented when you walked away. It was more than simply a farewell. It was a heavenly separation. They assumed they were just losing a person who they could replace, discuss, or spin a narrative. But they lost considerably more than that. They forfeited access to alignment in favor of a future that might have changed everything for them if they had known what they were standing next to. You were not only a friend, companion, or presence in their lives. You were a live bridge that connected who they were to who they might become. You carried knowledge, foresight, spiritual protection, and possibilities that hadn't even materialized yet. You were the key to doors they didn't even realize existed. Instead of recognizing it, they chose ego. They chose gossip. They decided to play small. When they were in front of anything precious, they did not just mistreat you. They disregarded the mission that came with you. You did not come into their lives by chance. You were sent as a heavenly appointment, a prophetic disruption of patterns that had been quietly harming them for years. But they couldn't see beyond your human appearance. They criticized your shortcomings, pointed out your limits, insulted your sensitivity, and questioned your purpose, all while gaining from your energy, protection, prayers, and vision. And now they are barred from entering, not because you are bitter, but because God does not allow the ungrateful to eat at feasts reserved for the loyal. You didn't just turn off toxicity. You denied them access to a future that they would never have reached without you. They may attempt to replicate your enthusiasm, duplicate your words, or seem kind in public. However, the divine link is no longer present. That was a one-time invitation, which they ripped up. Now they're watching from beyond the gates, understanding too late that your presence was not something to manage, control, or ignore. It was an answer to prayers. They lacked the maturity to accept and slam the door in your face. It will not open again, not because you are petty, but because prophetic access has a time limit. Number 8. Your anointing always sounded louder than their charges. They had no idea others were listening. They believed that if they shouted it loudly, often, and to a large enough audience, it would become the truth. They were counting on talk to damage you, believing that their version of you would stay. But what they didn't realize was that your anointing was speaking long before they opened their tongues, and genuine believers were listening, not to the drama or the chaos, but to the energy, the calm constancy, and the way you remained anchored while they were performing. They felt they were creating a masterpiece depicting your ruin. They didn't know the audience wasn't only watching you. They were scrutinizing them. They discovered who hurled the first stone. They noticed who couldn't stop saying your name. People slowly began to do the math. Your silence did not make you seem guilty. It made you seem secure. Your essay prompted many to rethink the falsehoods. Because how could someone so calm, focused, and unaffected by mayhem be who they said you were? You did not strike back with pettiness. You did not compete for attention. You let your life to speak for itself. And that kind of elegance, it does not go unnoticed. Even those who did not know the whole tale might sense that something did not add up. They observed as you remained anchored while others unraveled. They saw you pour into yourself as others poured poison into the timeline. You did not respond. You outlasted. And now the truth has been revealed in a manner that no rumor ever could. The verdicts are in, and it did not come from a noisy defense. It stemmed from your track record, resilience, tranquility, and elevation. People learned that you were never the one acting out. You were the one transporting something holy. And those who attempted to bury you, they revealed themselves. They believed they had complete control over the story, but they were unaware that people were more concerned with character than volume. You didn't need to yell. Your anointing always sounded louder than their charges. And now that the dust has cleared, everyone knows who had the oil and who just had views. Number 9. They constructed a case against you without understanding they were providing evidence. Every time they opened their lips to speak against you, they had no idea they were constructing their own tomb. They believed that stacking up tales, altering facts, and spreading falsehoods would be enough to bring you down. But what they didn't see was that their attempts to ruin you were exposing their own flaws. Every falsehood they said wasn't just an assault on you. It was a confession of their own struggles. When they attempted to publicly embarrass you, they revealed how preoccupied they were with your life. Why spend so much time, energy, and emotion tearing you apart? Their preoccupation was a clear indication that they dreaded your rising more than they desired their own quiet. The more vitriol they spit, the more obvious it became that their nervousness was in control. Not logic, not truth. Their pettiness was not subtle. It was loud and awkward, like a terrible performer fumbling lines on stage. They attempted to establish a persuasive case against you, but all they accomplished was exposing their own anger and hatred. Every distorted tale they told, every exaggerated defect they pointed out, was a reflection of their own unresolved concerns. People watching were not duped. They noticed the trend. The urgent desire to tear down rather than build up in order to divert from their own failings by concentrating on yours and working so hard to portray you as the antagonist. They were the definitive proof of drama and poison. In the end, their allegations failed because they were based on unstable foundations of fear, jealousy, and insecurity. They were so focused on breaking you that they never realized who they were displaying the world. And there is the irony. The more they screamed, the more they revealed the filth they were harboring inside themselves. Number 10. You did more than simply prove them incorrect. You changed the whole power structure. Your elevation was more than simply a personal achievement. It was a seismic upheaval that shook the base of their authority. When you burst through the clamor and showed them incorrect, you didn't only quiet detractors. You exposed the whole system. They used to maintain power in their hands. The individuals who formerly wielded power and respect seemed frail and fractured. They can no longer claim the power they established via falsehoods and deception. Your narrative prompted everyone to raise hard questions. If someone like you, whom they had disregarded and shunned, could climb so dramatically, who else did they ignore or push aside? How many more people were silenced or locked out because they challenged the current quo? You were the catalyst for a collective awakening, a challenge to the old narratives and phony gatekeepers who decided who mattered and who didn't. This wasn't just about devotion and fandom anymore. The whole city began to reconsider what truth really meant and who merits their confidence. You drove individuals to reveal layers of prejudice, bias, and manipulation that they had previously ignored or refused to address. With each new understanding, your influence expanded, not because you sought it, but because you represented something genuine and obvious. People switched their allegiance, causing the power structure they created on fear and exclusion to implode. They couldn't maintain control when the throng saw through the ruse. Your emergence sparked a movement dedicated to regaining honesty, justice, and authenticity in a system that had long forgotten what those terms meant. Now, the city isn't only supporting you because of what you accomplished. They agree with you because you had them reconsider what they thought they knew. And that kind of influence, that's not just winning. That completely rewrites the game's rules. A number. They believed they'd buried you, but you were really strengthening your roots. They didn't understand you were digging deeper into your mission. Your quiet was not defeat. It was the stillness before the storm. While they celebrated your alleged demise, you were silently collecting strength, honing your vision, and connecting with a force they couldn't touch or comprehend. They saw your absence as weakness, but what they didn't realize was that every minute of silence was a moment of preparation. You were not hiding from the world. You were hiding in your mission, becoming stronger from the inside out. You were creating roots so strong that no storm, rumor, or treachery could ever uproot you again. Their hubbub became background static for your concentrated advancement. They mistook your stillness for a fracture, but it was really a cocoon preparing for a change they weren't ready to see. You didn't simply return. It was a rebirth. You seemed stronger, smarter, and more aligned than ever. You carried with you a presence that was focused on flourishing rather than merely surviving. And this is what threw them off surprise. They anticipated the older version, the one they believed they could break. But instead, they encountered someone untouchable. This return was not accidental. It was designed. Every failure was a preparation for your breakthrough. You were busy rewriting your tale while they spent their time planning your destruction. They didn't realize that quiet is sometimes the most powerful message you can make. It is not about vanishing. It's about re-emerging with such force that no one can dispute who is actually in charge. So, while they believed they buried you, you were really strengthening your roots, prepared to grow larger, stronger, and more unstoppable than ever before. Now they can only watch as you ascend, stunned as the seed they sought to destroy grows into something they never expected. The apology is not coming, but the repercussions have already occurred. You don't have to hold your breath for an apology. It's never arriving, and it is not your weight to bear. They owe you more than a simple apology. When you're a chosen one, You see the effects of their own decisions in real time. Underestimating yourself is more than simply a mistake. It is a spiritual mistake. This causes a chain reaction over which they have no control. They believe they could shatter, silence, or keep you back without incurring a cost. However, every action elicits a response. Spiritual law does not deal with pride or deception. What they threw out with harshness, slander, and mistrust has returned, but not in the manner they anticipated. Instead of plummeting, they are seeing their own foundations erode. The enterprises they attempted to undermine fail. The relationships they poisoned become poisonous, and the reputations they slandered crumble under the weight of their own dishonesty. It is not about vengeance or resentment. It's all about balance. The cosmos is not interested in petty retribution. It is restoring order. And when you remain fast in your convictions, what you have constructed with integrity thrives. While everything they constructed on deception rots from the inside out, they don't notice because they're too preoccupied with burying you, ignoring that what you sow on purpose grows beyond their grasp. So let them stew in their silence, look for excuses, or attempt to rewrite history. The actual message is obvious and unstoppable. You were never an issue. The repercussions they confront today are the obvious conclusion of underestimating a power beyond their control. The apology is not coming. The repercussions have already occurred, and they are louder than any words could ever be. You've turned their rejection into a stage, and they can't even buy a ticket. The door they slammed in your face did not mean the end. It was your opening act. While they believed they were shutting you out, you were busy changing the script and turning rejection into an opportunity. What was supposed to be a dead end became your stage. And now, hundreds of people who have shared your experience, felt your agony, or seen your amazing climb are here to watch you shine. You didn't just endure the chilly shoulders and slammed doors. You turned that energy into a magnet for individuals who needed precisely what you provided. Every nay they gave you was a step closer to creating something larger than they ever dreamed. You've built an environment in which sincerity, fortitude, and resilience are not just appreciated, but also followed. You are no longer only celebrated. You are heading a movement. The tables didn't just turn against them. You created a totally new room, setting, and platform. The irony is that they're standing outside wanting to look in yet can't find a way to obtain a ticket. The rejection helped you become stronger, sharper, and more conspicuous. They assumed that shutting you out would keep you little. Instead, it drove you to construct an environment in which they no longer fit. A location where your tribe, fans, and legacy can flourish without you. And while others are scrambling to find out how they missed it, you are already 2 steps ahead, demanding attention, respect, and influence in ways they cannot match. Rejection did not only feed your fire, it created your dominion. And now, those who previously questioned you can only watch from the sidelines, learning too late that they were the ones who lost their rightful place at the table and before teen. This isn't simply your vindication. It is their exposure. This moment goes much beyond just proving oneself correct. It's a full-fledged reveal of all those phony buddies, envious rivals, and covert manipulators attempted to conceal. They created their tiny castles of falsehoods, certain that no one would see through the gaps. But now the whole city is watching, and those fissures have expanded into enormous holes. The same individuals who spoke behind your back, distorted your tale, and mistreated you are now attempting to alter history. It's almost comical how they behave as if they're the heroes of the narrative when they were the ones ripping you apart behind closed doors. Their phony grins and insincere apologies. Their sudden backing. None of it can change what has happened or the reality that has been revealed. The narrative is no longer within their control since it is more than just thoughts and hearsay. It's been recorded in real time. God has the ultimate record, and it is not a private file. It is a public archive that was observed by everyone who was paying attention. Every insult, treachery, and underhanded act has been documented and remembered. And now the truth is too brilliant to conceal. Your vindication is about more than simply rising above. It's about exposing the whole system of dishonesty that attempted to keep you down. It's a miraculous revelation that what they attempted to conceal has become their ruin. They believed they could control the narrative, but they were the story. The cautionary tale of what happens when you dismiss the chosen and attempt to alter history. So, as they race to improve their image, remember that the true win is the truth, which can never be erased. The reputation they will never completely restore, and the legacy you are establishing on a foundation they attempted and failed to demolish. Your path was not just about proving others incorrect. It was about reframing the whole game that they believed they controlled. Every sneer, every closed door, and every shred of doubt were not the end of your narrative. It was the spark that set off a profound metamorphosis. You did not just rise from their rejection. You made an empire out of it. You revealed the weaknesses in their structure, causing the whole city to reconsider who has true power and influence. They believed that burying you would mute your truth. But what they didn't comprehend was that your stillness was intentional, a strengthening of your roots, preparing you to return stronger, smarter, and more unstoppable than ever. While they hurried to construct their narratives and issue bogus apologies, the ramifications of their acts were already being felt. Their attempts to bring you down exposed their own weaknesses and anxieties for everyone to see. The identical voices who previously attempted to delete you are now quoting you in rooms you were not permitted to enter. They are forced to confront the fact that you were never the issue. They were just terrified of the brightness you brought. Your climb is more than simply a personal accomplishment. It is a communal awakening for everyone who has been marginalized, undervalued, or disregarded. This moment is more than simply your vindication. It is their exposure, a heavenly revelation of lies, treachery, and manipulation that can no longer be hidden in the shadows. The truth you exemplify has been realized by something larger than any of us, as evidenced by a city that now stands beside you. So, as you continue ahead, remember that the tale you're creating is about more than simply conquering hardship. It is about breaking patterns, changing power, and encouraging an entire community to stand with you. You transform their rejection into your stage, their uncertainty into your audience, and their stillness into an unmistakable shout. The tables did not just turn. You completely redesigned the space, and they aren't even on the guest list. This is more than just a return. It is a revolution. And everyone watching understands one unmistakable reality. When a chosen one ascends, the world alters forever. If this message resonated with you and you're ready to keep leveling up with genuine discussion and strong truths, please sure to subscribe because this trip is just getting started. If you're feeling the vibe, hit the like button. Share your opinions in the comments section below, and don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs to hear it right now. Let us develop this movement together, one truth at a time. Your support means everything, so join the family and stay tuned for what happens next. God bless you.